All right, everyone. If you all knew what I had to go through today just to try and get up this podcast today. Um, so as you can see, I got a new border around my frame here. That was extremely difficult. It's 12:30 now. I started working on just that frame probably I think about 8 o'clock this morning. So you're talking 4.5 hours. I was ready many a time to just launch it right out the window. I use AI. I'm not even embarrassed a little bit to say that I used AI to develop the frame. I gave him the ideas, but had him put it all together for me and then take me through about, it seemed like 45 different apps. For crying out loud, this stuff is miserable. My wife's sitting next to me. I even told ChatGPT, or I should say Meta AI, that I felt like a complete moron doing this. Of course, it was extremely positive. Wouldn't let me accept the idea that I was calling myself a moron. But anyway, this is me ever trying to improve the presentation that I'm getting everybody. So, if you were to look at my Spotify account, you'll see that we have almost 10 followers. And I guess that's not too bad. This is just third episode right now. Constantly all through the week, I'm trying to look for ideas, topics, asking myself, is there really anything that somebody like me has to offer? If anything, I'll just keep doing it as a hobby. I'm learning something new. I do enjoy it. I guess I just enjoy mostly, I enjoy sitting talking about the things that are rolling around in my head. But I wanted to cover a topic. I know a topic that all the really smart people and all the studies and polls say that everybody suffers from, especially in first world countries. And no, I'm not talking about obesity or high stress levels or those type of things, but all those things, majority of those things stem from the topic that I want to cover, which is sleep, or should I say the lack thereof. So yeah, we live in a society where sleep is not valued. Um, your job, I'm sure, regardless of what kind of job you have, who you work for, they do not put a premium on sleep. We live in a society where we want everything. We want it yesterday, and we want it faster than that. We want no hiccups. We want no stalls. We want nothing getting in the way of what we want. I mean, you could literally order vitamins, and we do this, today in the morning, and by evening, Amazon will have it at your doorstep. In one sense, that's really cool, right? But in another sense, it's completely ruined us as a society because, as a people, I should say, because nobody has patience anymore. And I am the biggest culprit there is, probably, if you were to ask me. I have zero patience, okay? Now, I've always been like that, but the way things are now, it makes it even worse. So, I got a book that they had recommended on a podcast that I listen to. I love listening to podcasts. I hardly listen to music anymore. I really only listen to music when I'm working out. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. And even then, sometimes I'm not really listening to anything or picking what I'm listening to. It might be off in the background. But sleep is, yeah, from this book, what I'm reading so far, and I'm not even through the first chapter, it lists a whole area of problems that we get that come from sleep. Now, I remember being told, maybe even as far back as 15 years ago, sleep's not important. I only get 5 hours of sleep. I operate pretty well. Don't be a sissy. Don't be a wuss. You don't need that much sleep. And you know what? That's coming from some high level people, some pretty important people that were in my life. That I thought, okay, I mean, these people are in authority, and I should be listening to them, whether in the spiritual world or as far as my faith, whether in the work world, growing up, whether in the lifting world. The thing is, there is that although there are a few people in the lifting world, the health community, that would tell you you only need about 5 hours sleep, I've come to understand through my own experience in the last 6 months just how utterly ridiculous living like that is. Now, let me give you a little bit of my background as far as sleep is concerned. Ever since I was a kid, as far back as I can really remember even thinking about sleep, Because when you're really young, you don't care about sleep. The last thing that you want to do is go to sleep. But they put you down because you need to sleep. It helps you grow. It helps you do all these different types of things, right? My eyes are bothering me today, so forgive me for constantly cleaning my eyes out. But you're constantly hearing when you're young just how important sleep is. You hate sleep. You're afraid you're going to miss everything. Especially when the weather's nice outside and the sun's still shining at like 9:30 at night. The last thing that you want to do is go to sleep as a 10-year-old boy. You've got all the energy in the world, and you usually don't fall asleep until you just sit somewhere, and before you know it, you're asleep. Your body just passes right out, right? So, but as far back as I can remember thinking about the lack of sleep I would get, I would say it was probably right around junior high. I think about the seventh grade, where I started realizing, I was probably about 13, 14 years old, whatever age you would be in that grade. And I can remember waking up one morning, I'm like, wow, I got a good night's sleep. Now, I even remember to this day what I believe caused that. I was always somebody who had to have the room cool, who had to have it completely dark, and needed a background noise. Now, when we were younger, we never had air conditioning in any home I lived in as a kid. And if we had a fan, most of the time it was an old beat up fan with no protective grate on the cover, and three boys had to share one room a lot of time in the same bed when we were really young, and you had one fan if you were lucky. Just for background noise. I mean, we wanted it for more than that, but I'm the type of person that needs that background noise. Now I have three fans running in my bedroom. When it's colder outside in the wintertime, I dial it down to one, but I have to have that noise. So, to get back to remembering, I remember I didn't have a fan, I had a radio, and I remember playing a local country music station. And I'm talking the oldies radio. And I remember waking up and feeling just really good. I was like, man, I have never slept. And I never thought about sleep, but I woke up and thought, man, I really feel good. I had a good night's sleep. So I literally tried to mimic with my little transistor radio plugged into the wall, coat hanger coming off of it for an antenna. Yeah, that's how we used to do it. And tried to mimic the same thing. I remember the next night, it was really hot in the room, and we couldn't control the temperature. We lived in like a single wide trailer, 2 bedrooms. So again, we're all sharing, the three boys are sharing a bedroom. We had a bunk bed, my two younger brothers up top, me on the bottom for when I can remember. Maybe I had my own room at the time. I can't remember really, but I remember having to put something over the heater grate in the floor because it was so roasting hot in my room. So once I did that, had the country music playing again, I remember I had a pretty good night's sleep that night, but it still wasn't as good as the night before. And then every other night after that, it was just okay. Nothing was working again. All through high school, same thing. Never a good night's sleep. When I think back about that now, I understand why I didn't have a good night's sleep growing up. I mean, when your life growing up is chaotic, and everything you do, it revolves around chaos to one form or another, there really is no restful night's sleep, and then you become programmed that way. And then if you're apt to be that type of person where you don't do well with sleep, and I'm coming to find out that there just are people like that. According to this book, there are just people that when their eyes go down, when their eyes close, they're out, and they can be out for 12 hours, and them same people can still need a nap the next day. Me, it just was never like that. So fast forward a long way, past the time where I used to think that sleep, I hated it. It was a waste of my time. When the world goes down and my family's in bed and everybody's quiet and safe and everything's cool, I'm sitting up watching TV, reading, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. Now it's my time, right? Now it's time for me to vent my brain and do all the things that I need to do to help me to go to sleep. But the problem with that is I'd be up till midnight. And then I got to get up at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. to work in time, which I need a good 45 minutes to an hour just to get ready to walk out the door, which is why I have a lot of things set up the night before. The clothes I'm going to wear, the lunch made, the coffee pot, all that kind of stuff ready so that I can sit, drink my coffee, do my thing in the morning, and then head out for that long, almost hour and a half drive I have every morning on the way to work. Well, I was listening to something, and again, this year, back in March, like I've told many of you several times. If you watch my YouTube, I've mentioned it on the previous podcast that I did. Um, we're on a cut. We're trying to do it. We're going to prepare to do a bodybuilding show next year. I myself am down close to 45 pounds since the beginning of March. My wife is pretty much close to the same body weight she's lost, maybe 35 pounds. And really just pushing hard, but I wasn't on the sleep thing. And I finally decided, you know what, 10:30 lights out. I got to get this thing in order because I want to see how bad. I want to do an experiment myself. I wanted to see just how much a lack of sleep was really affecting me. If it's really just as important as everybody says, or maybe I'm one of those that is one in a million built differently where I don't need that much sleep. And because that's literally what I thought it was. I was okay. I'm operating every day. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm doing my job, doing my tasks, getting to the gym, all that. But I knew I wasn't running efficiently. I haven't been running efficiently for a long time, and I knew it was stalling my weight loss, which was stalling my body composition and the fat level and all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay, 10:30, lights are going to be out regardless. And decided that night, so I take the things that I take at night to help me sleep, which are magnesium, melatonin, L-theanine, L-arginine, I believe it's called, Apigen. You know, there's a whole chemical cocktail, but those aren't chemicals, they are natural supplements, right? But a whole cocktail of things I take every night to help me to get to sleep. And I use Kratom. Now I know maybe I'll do an episode on Kratom one of these days, and I know the big to-do out there about everybody saying, well, it's easy to get addicted to it because it attaches to your opioid receptor sites. It's not an opiate, but it attaches to the same sites, releases a good feeling into your brain, helps you focus. I use this as a pre-workout. I use it when I go on my long walks. I use it for whatever, right? And yeah, I can see that it becomes addictive, but in my mind, anything that you think you need to have every single day is an addiction. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily you got to have food, right, to survive, but those are people that I got to have caffeine. I have to have that coffee. I have to have that pop. I have to have that. I quit smoking, but now I have to have those nicotine pouches because I need the nicotine, right? So don't come at me about an addiction when, number one, there are no side effects. There have been proven no adverse side effects as a standard rule with Kratom. Now, some people experience nausea, some people experience symptoms and things like that that come from overconsumption. And even when they talk, and I'm getting kind of on a rabbit trail here, but even when they talk about the deaths related to Kratom, it wasn't that. It was, if you track it back, they were ingesting the powder and choked on the powder. Now, that is a miserable thing to do, to try and take the raw powder down. I've done it several times, and it is the nastiest real organic earthy substance you'll ever put in your mouth. It is just absolutely horrible. Mixing it in water, I've tried it all. Dry scooping it, washing it down, there's nothing that you've taken that is that bad, okay? And that's where the deaths, it wasn't from over ingesting it, it was from just taking it the wrong way and choking on it. So regardless of all that, that's another topic, another time. I use Kratom as well to help me sleep at night. And then I said, okay, lights out, 10:30. That was my cutoff. And I have been able to keep that for the last, I believe, 2.5 months now, 98% locked in. There are a couple of times where I'm up till 11 o'clock. The weekends are what get me. I figure, hey, I don't need to have the same sleep schedule. But I says, nope, you're not going to do this because one night turns into 2, turns into 4, turns into 7, and then, you're never getting to bed on time again. You're right back in the same boat. So what I experienced from my own experiment by getting to bed by 10:30, lights out, doing everything I normally do in the evening, I wasn't going to record this podcast now. I came out here and got everything set up. But I figured, I'm here now and I'm on a roll, so let's just do it. Usually I'd put a shirt on, but that's why I have it above. I'm just going to roll with it. If I like how it sounds and everything like that after it's done, this is what I'm going to kick out there, right? So sans shirt and everything. At least all you can see is my shoulders. So anyway, I have been faithful to the 10:30 thing about 98% of the time. All right? And I will tell you, within a week, it made a dramatic shift and a dramatic difference in my alertness and the way I felt the next morning. my ability to not have to pull over somewhere and need a nap on the drive home, which used to happen a lot. Um, my wife was going to come in, so there might be a slight interruption here. Um, anyways, maybe she hears me talking. So there's been a dramatic shift in and I am recording. All right, I'm back. This is a new app that I'm using too, so I'm kind of learning the controls. The wife and the girls are all headed down towards another city about 40 minutes away. My daughter, one of my daughters is getting married in August, so they're going down to look at shoes. So I had to go say goodbye to everybody and grab my water. I could have put a shirt on, but why? All right, so anyways, like I was saying, I noticed not only a positive result in getting to bed at the same time, also getting up at the same time. So my alarm is set for 5 a.m., but I always wake up before that. Rarely does the alarm catch me. So up, do the same routine. I am a man of routine. I do have another video that I recorded on a drive along with Webb. I have to check that out, make sure it sounds good with the quality and everything. And I talked in there, that whole episode was about ritual, having the same ritual, doing the same thing every day, but positive rituals, right? Positive habits. These are things that you need to do in order to have a healthy lifestyle, okay? Eating, everything like that, but this one's on sleep. So I noticed a huge difference in how I felt, my alertness, not having to pull over on the side of the road to take naps anymore, and there were many times on the way home where I was literally falling asleep at the wheel. And that is just not cool. I've never suffered that. So a lot of this comes from getting older, not being as resilient as I used to be with a lot of things. So with that, I knew I needed to change. So the sleep helped that, but it started making a huge difference in my body composition. Like literally, I was noticing differences to the point where I'm like, it can't just be the fact that I slept. So when I started compiling together the things that I did differently this year as opposed to all the other weight loss journeys that I had been on in the last, let's say, 8 years, my training has been consistent. Usually we are 98%, 95% of the time we're getting the 4 days in a week, okay? But we hit every muscle group 2 times in a week. So even if we do miss a day, or we miss 3 days in a row and then go in and do that day, we're still consistent. Training hard, consistently on the diet, and by consistent, I mean not just cutting calories, but eating the same exact foods every day. Now, this is something I'm going to do another episode within a week or two, okay? But I kind of want to get through sleep. But there will be multifaceted angles that I come at with my episodes, right? There will be these, there will be the walks, there will be the drive-alongs, whatever I feel like doing whenever it pops up on me. But it started sleeping right, started making a huge difference in all these areas. But really, where I really noticed it, outside of the other things I mentioned, was my body composition. The fat started coming off, the weight started coming off quicker, and I started on a calorie deficit at a higher caloric intake daily than I ever had on any cut. Okay, I'm talking even when I did keto. All right, forgive me for all that, but it was not that my fat was high or anything like that, and that because my carbs were low. It was because my calories were super low, and I was extremely active working in the field, doing CrossFit training at the time while lifting 2 days a week and doing jiu-jitsu courses 2 to 3 times a week. So the wife and I were extremely active at that time, and starting out at 2,300 calories was the first initial introduction to the cut, and then we slowly titrated down to where I was down to 1,700 calories a day for a good 3 weeks, and that's working 5 days a week and training 6 days a week in one way or another. But when I got to the end of that 10 weeks and had lost 50 pounds, the problem was I didn't like my body. I had lost a lot of fat, but I lost a ton of muscle. And it just happened way too soon. I didn't like the way it was all put together. You know how a lot of people, you'll notice them, they lose a lot of weight real fast, and you kind of look, man, you looks like you've got cancer. Do you get sick or something like that, right? Well, this time around, doing it this way with the help of our coach, Coach Will, we did it starting high, 2,600. Okay, actually, yeah, he started at me like 2,650, and I took over from there. That's what he set me at. Gave me a program. I tweaked it like I wanted, because just like any plan, you want to start not extreme in the beginning. You want to be able to take it down a notch when you need to. If you start at the immediate, insane, aggressive, you're going to run out of steam fast. That's why the clients that are working with us, we start their calories just a little bit above what the macro calculators would tell you should start somebody at, because I want room to play with as we're taking them down. Sending somebody right into a deficit and starving them out of the gate, they're going to lose interest within 2 to 3 weeks. It's just too much for them. Okay, so that's something that we learned. Not everybody is built with the same aggressive mindset. And even those of us that are, it usually doesn't pay off well, because you always rebound back and you get worse. And that's exactly what happened to us too. So sleep helped my work schedule. It helped my attitude throughout the day. The next week, it helped the next day. It helped my training, and it helped my body composition. Okay, several of the things, and I'm just going to touch on, because I'm going to try and keep this under 45 minutes. So with all that said, this is all from my personal experience. Okay, when I finally got my sleep dialed in, before I started reading this book of Why We Sleep, by Matt Walker. If you don't have it you can get it on Kindle. I recommend that you begin it and spend time in it yourself. Folks, sleep. This is coming from somebody who never valued sleep that much. All right, sleep is the most important thing that you can do. And when I say by the most important, I'm saying it's the most important because it will be the driving factor behind every single thing you do in your life. Whatever your job is, okay? I don't care if you're a shovel digger, if you're a mom, if you're a dad, if you're a preacher, if you're a police officer, garbage man, school teacher, whatever, retired grandma and grandpa, I don't care what it is. Sleep is going to be the driving factor in how you perform all those roles. Whatever your daily activity is, if you're not getting the right amount of sleep, every one of those things is going to be negatively affected. And this coming from a man who, I'm telling you my own personal experience, because I never believed it, okay? I never accepted it, and now I know. I've seen the results in myself, okay? So now I'm dedicated to making sure that I get 7 hours of sleep a night. At minimum, 6.5. At the most, I can usually get at 7.5, unless on the weekends we stay in bed a little later, but my clock is already set for 5 o'clock. Being on a cut, I go to the bathroom, let's say, probably 3 to 4 times a night. Sometimes I get away with only 1 time a night. I try to keep myself rehydrated, and being in a calorie cut, the deeper you get into that cut, the more you will urinate, because you're excreting. Not only are you breathing out fat loss, but you're also urinating and things like that. You're getting rid of that stuff out of your system too. So if you're deep in a calorie cut and you're urinating a lot, that's a good key that it's working. Okay, that is a really good sign that your calorie cut is working. Okay, so some of the things that I gathered from this book, which I didn't know until afterwards, but it lines up with what I was experiencing, is the proper sleep helps in all those areas that I had just talked about, right? The how you work, how you relationships with others, how you train, whatever it is that you do. But some of the really serious negative effects that not getting proper sleep does, and this directly ties into weight gain, okay? Not sleeping properly, there are two, let's say, hormones in the body, and if I'm using the improper term there, I really don't care. I'll correct it later. But two hormones in the body, okay? Leptin, and I believe you call it ghrelin, okay? I'm not a scientist, so I might be mispronouncing those words, but that's okay, all right? So the ghrelin is the hunger hormone. The leptin is the you are satiated and full, you don't need to eat any more hormone. By staying up late, what you're actually doing is suppressing that leptin hormone, which tells your body to stop eating, and you are activating the ghrelin hormone, the one that says you're hungry. And even though you're not really hungry, let's say you had been eating good all day long, you had a good dinner, you even had a good pre bedtime snack, post workout snack, okay, same thing, at the same time. If you're staying up too late, your body will change. It will release the ghrelin and it will say, hey, you're hungry. You're still up. You should be eating. Hence the late night snacking because you're up. You're watching Netflix or YouTube on a continuous loop. Okay, you're in that can't stop watching the series thing because, you know, who's got time to wait around for your next episode to come out once a week like it was when we was kids. Now you can watch through the whole thing in one night while consuming gobs and gobs of food. And before you know it, the weight is right back on. Okay? So that's just one of the negative effects. And that is the one that I wanted to talk about the most today. And I'll end here pretty quick with this. My encouragement as I get into this book, as I share the information about sleep, my goal is, you see, there's a lot of social media influencers, there's a lot of social media apps, and this week I really kind of been struggling with the idea. You look at TikTok or you look at Instagram, especially TikTok mostly. You know, I had recently just got on this about 3 weeks ago, and I'm trying to make a lot of content and all that kind of stuff. And I'm looking, and it's like every influencer under 20 or under 25 years old seems to have thousands and thousands of followers, and they're spitting out information anywhere from diet, nutrition, training heavy, not training heavy, using steroids, using peptides, using all this stuff. And I'm like, for the life of me, how does somebody under 25 years old have all that information? I know they don't. They haven't been around long enough to even consume the amount of research that is out there, or even the lack of research that there is in the world of peptides and steroids and different things like that. And all they're doing is they're going to Chat GPT or AI or Grok or Meta or whatever it is, and they're typing in this, and they just read it verbatim. That's all they're doing. And then you got all kinds of young people following them who are going to be in serious trouble here in 5 years, okay, if they last that long, because of the things that they're starting to put into their body. All right. My goal, I am coming to accept and understand, is if there are young people that want to listen, good. But most young people don't listen. I'm trying to reach the demographic of people, probably the youngest of which was going to be 35, closer to 40 and above. And when I mean by above, I mean to as far as it can go, right? 80 years old, 85 years old, whoever. 40 and above means 40 and everybody above that. That's the demographic that I'm trying to reach. Because if you're still walking this earth, it's not too late to change your diet, to start exercising, to get the proper amount of sleep, to use hormone therapy or peptides or any of those things safely, efficiently, and carefully by somebody who, or some bodies, okay, it's not just me, because I will also point you to people that I trust, okay, to give the right information so that you're not getting hurt. So my charge and my challenge and my encouragement is to anybody that's watching this, anybody that's listening to this, number one, thank you. Thank you for spending time listening to somebody like me who's just getting into this, who is struggling with, what do I have to offer? How can I help anybody? Okay, and literally these are the things going through my brain this week. I knew this would happen. If you listen to all the experts, I've reached out to a couple professional coaches that have been doing this for a long time, and it seems to be 50 episodes for a podcast seems to be the cutoff when people give up, because they don't have the followers that they think they should have. And then another friend of mine was telling me about a streamer. He was a handicapped streamer, streaming his video games for 4 years, no followers. And in case you didn't know, that's a thing. Get online, play your video games. If you get followers, you can make all kinds of money. I'm not in this to make all kinds of money, okay? I'm not. I have a full-time job. If this turns into a fun hobby that helps my wife stay at home while I still work until we retire, and then it's just something that's big enough to supplement our income where we can travel, help, and do these type things, that's why I'm doing this now. I get a lot of fulfillment in helping people. And if you ask anybody that knows me, I get a huge amount of fulfillment helping people. When I have advice or practical ideas or programs, be it in the realm of Christianity and religion, theology, all those things go together, right? Whether it be in philosophies of life, whether political, ideological, those type of things, especially training and lifting and nutrition, all these things are what drives me the most. These are the things I love the most and have since I was a very young person. And if I can help people change their mindset for the positive, okay, who might think that it's too late and they're too old, I will have felt a victory. And I have to remind myself of this, okay? And this is another thing of me trying to encourage you folks. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever it is that, this is your thing that you can lock in with, that you know that you can help other people, go after that thing. Use that thing to help other people. Okay? 3 years ago, me and my wife, we lost a daughter. Okay? It's been extremely difficult for me to say that on these episodes. There might be a time where I dedicate an episode just to that, the effects of that, and why I am doing what I am now. And that is a huge driving factor. I was told the day that happened that the Lord will do something to use this to help other people. Okay? And at that time, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to be used. I didn't want any of that. All right? But as... Okay, so we had another technical difficulty. I forgot to clean out my phone storage again. All right? So anyways, like I was saying, I was trying to wrap this up. So let me see if I can remember where my frame of thought was before the camera quit on me. My goal is to reach the older crowd. Okay? My goal is to let you know that there's somebody here whose whole purpose of my new venture in Muscle-Ology, with the coaching program, with the podcast, with my YouTube videos, isn't necessarily to prove myself to the younger generation. I've learned I don't have to worry about that anymore. I've proven what I need to prove, and so have you. All right? Now my goal is to help people cut through all the utter chaotic BS that's out there on social media, right? Now, I'm someone who consumes a lot of information, all right? It's just how I work. It's how my brain works. Keeping my mind full of that stuff is keeping it empty of other things I don't want there. So I operate on consuming information from all over different outlets, be it social media, books, videos, podcasts, everything like that, right? I'm a huge consumer in those things, and I like to figure them out. I've been through the trial and error of many different types of programs, whether it be a diet, nutrition, whether it be lifting programs, whether it be scheduling work, whatever it is, these type of things, right? As a father who's raised 5 kids, as someone who's lost a child, as someone who just decided, I can't let that end me, I'll be with her again someday. There's still a lot here left to do, and there's people that I need to help, and I want to be able to do that, realizing I have my bad days, but there's enough people that have been put in my life to keep encouraging me and helping me go, and I've gotten enough positive feedback from this. It's enough to keep me going, all right? But I think even if I didn't have that, I would still keep going because I like doing it, right? Yep, I was down a little bit this week. Yep, I for a moment thought about already throwing in the towel, but everybody that's been doing this for any length of time, who is a mentor to me as far as in the lifting community or wherever else it might be, they all say the same thing, okay? You don't quit when something gets hard. Nothing worth having is of value, okay? If it isn't hard to attain it and make it achievable and make it successful, it never was worth anything anyways. Everything good comes from a lot of hard work and determination. Secondly, there will be people that tell you you're not going to be able to, okay? That includes you. There will be people telling you you don't need to be that strict with your diet and your eating. There will be people to tell you you can have a cheat day, a cheat meal. There are going to be people to tell you, stay out late, do this, ingest this, have fun, okay, you only live once. And all those things are okay in an amount, of a certain amount, okay? 90% of your life, even 95% of your life should be lived clean, healthy, with a consistent program, consistent ritualistic habits that are carrying you through every day. And then once in a while letting yourself somewhat off the rails and have a good time. But at the same time, you can develop these habits and have fun with them. I'll give you the eating, for example. The food that we're eating now basically is this. It is ground chicken that I use to make chicken patties every day for lunch and dinner. It is Oikos fat-free Greek flavored yogurt. It is some type of frozen fruit, either mixed berry or blueberry. It is a low-fat granola, and then it is honey on top of that. And I look forward to that. I literally had ice cream last week with the family. And you want to know what? That was kind of disappointing. I actually was looking more forward to having my yogurt dessert than I did the ice cream. And if you knew me, I used to consume ice cream half a gallon a night way back 15 years ago. Okay? That's how much I liked ice cream. So the yogurt, the chicken, the homemade sourdough bread, the potatoes, the rice. What else do we throw in there? Sometimes lean ground beef, but I've gotten on a kick where I like ground chicken better. Um, Fruits and vegetables, obviously, but that's consistently pretty much what we eat all week long. Okay, and it's become such a habit that when I step outside of that, I'm actually unhappy. That's what happens when you develop a good habit. You have to do it long enough to where your brain's like, I want that, not what you used to do. That literally will happen. But you got to plug on. You got to keep going. All right? The training, same thing. Now, there are still days where it's like, I don't think we can get there. But then when we sit and we contemplate it, and we're like, no, we're a day behind, we get in the gym. Okay? Because if I don't get to the gym, I'm going to be miserable. My brain and my body and everything, it just gets restless and ornery, and I don't have a good night's sleep. The walking. I have to have at least 12,000 steps a day. Okay? Sometimes it's 20. And that's starting from the beginning of the day. I wear this right here until I take it off at night. Okay? I want my steps. And then even after long, grueling workouts, whether it's 95 degrees outside, we go on our walks. Okay? I have to have my walk. The one thing I'm inconsistent still on is getting cardio 3 days a week. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two. Okay? So I haven't been doing that faithfully enough for it to become a habit. But I've done it enough to where I know I'm supposed to do it. All right? The sleeping. Like I said, and that's the whole purpose of all this. The sleeping is what's been able to help me keep all those other things in track. When I stay up past 10:30, it's not within even 20 minutes, 25 minutes where I'm thinking I need a snack. And that's my trigger to know. It's like, hey, Webb, I've gone out into the kitchen, spinning around in a circle, looking in the fridge like, you know what? Get in bed, turn it all off, shut it down, go to sleep, have some water. Just go do that. Like, it doesn't make me happy that I have to tell myself no in that instance. But when I go to bed, take the drink of water, lay down, within 5 minutes, I'm out and I'm not thinking about it. And that's how important sleep is. So for those of us older folks that are staying up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, make yourself a challenge. Get in bed, lights out by 10, no later than 10:30. And then get up before 6 a.m. Okay? Even if your job, you don't have to get up that early, you need to build a consistent schedule. Number one, getting up that early, if you don't have anywhere to be till 9 o'clock, there's your gym time right there. There's your at-home workout. But I would suggest getting a gym membership. All right? You have to be an extremely dedicated person to work out consistently, especially with the programs that I write. You have to get to a gym. It's just, you need to do it. Okay? Bite the bullet, whatever it is that's keeping you from doing it. Make it work. What's more important? Okay, your health. Nothing's more important than that, because it's going to keep you being a good mom, a good dad, a good worker, husband, wife, citizen, whatever it is. A good example for those that you're around. Sleep. Sleep ripples out into everything else that we do. Okay, working, relationships, eating, training, repeat, sleep. Same thing every day. Okay, so with that, consider this my introduction to the series that we're going to do on sleep. As we move along, I might take breaks and cover something else. I want to make sure I have the research laid out in front of me, going over the different topics of, cardiac arrest, cardiac bad health in your cardiac, and all the different areas that this bad sleep affects. Okay, there's just so much that's rolling around in my brain anymore. My mouth's having a hard time getting it out. Okay, that's how my brain reacts. So I want to have this stuff in front of me. I want to discuss it, talk about it. I want to have guests. I want to do lives where people can interact and talk about what they suffer with, asking questions about what they can do, getting encouragement. Remember, I'm not somebody who believes in motivation only. I will motivate you to be disciplined. That's my goal, okay? So with that, I'm going to check out. I hope you guys like the whole new setup here. As we continue on, I'm going to continue to try and make it better, try and make it more presentable, make it more enjoyable, stuff that you don't want to miss. Like I want it to be where, okay, Muscle-Olgy is on, a new episode drop, new YouTube video with training is out, whatever it is. I'm in my new school community. I want to develop a newsletter covering different topics that relate to the people that I'm trying to reach. I want to make a one-stop area for the people of my demographic so that I don't have to worry about going everywhere else and getting confused. You know, they say, hey, Webb, I just seen this guy say this. And I'm going to say, that person's an idiot, don't listen. Okay? Or I'm going to say, yep, that's exactly what I've been trying to tell you. As a matter of fact, I get some of my information from him. All right? That's my goal here. I want to clear out the cobwebs, let the dust settle, give you one place where you can come. You say, I'm going to see what Muscle-Olgy has to say with the different people I want to get involved with this and be a help to the people in my community, the people in churches, not just mine, but the churches that you're in, the schools that you're in, the jobs that you have, your families, the people that you know are suffering from lack of sleep, bad diet, bad training, bad nutrition, bad relationships, whatever it is. That's my goal. Okay? So with that, thank you for being here again. Episode number 3. We will make it past episode 50. That's considered the baseline, and hopefully we keep going for years to come. All right? Thanks, folks, for tuning in.